Have you ever noticed that the strongest women are not always the loudest, the richest, or the most admired? Their true power comes from something far deeper, a calm mind, unwavering discipline, and the courage to stay true to their values, even when the world pulls them in every direction. Strength is not about controlling others, it is about mastering yourself. Every challenge, every disappointment, and every difficult decision becomes an opportunity to grow wiser instead of weaker. In this speech, we will explore 7 timeless principles that help women build unshakable inner strength, develop quiet confidence, protect their peace, and create a life guided by purpose rather than fear. These are not quick fixes or motivational slogans, but practical rules that transform the way you think, respond, and live, allowing you to stand firm through every storm with grace, resilience, and unwavering self-respect. The greatest battles in life are rarely fought in the outside world. They are fought within the mind, where fear argues with courage, where doubt competes with confidence, and where comfort constantly challenges growth. Every woman who develops unshakable strength understands one simple truth. If you cannot lead your own thoughts, your thoughts will begin to lead you. The mind is either your greatest ally or your greatest obstacle. Everything you experience in your life is influenced by the way you interpret it. 2 people can face the same challenge, yet one becomes stronger while the other feels defeated. The difference is not always talent, intelligence, or opportunity. The difference is often the quality of their mindset. A smart woman does not wait for perfect circumstances before she becomes strong. She understands that circumstances change every day. People change. Opinions change. Success comes and goes. Difficulties appear without warning. If your emotional state depends entirely on what happens around you, your peace will always remain fragile. But when your strength comes from within, the outside world loses much of its power over you. You stop reacting to every opinion, every criticism, every disappointment, and every unexpected obstacle, because your foundation is no longer built on unstable ground. The mind naturally seeks comfort. It prefers familiar routines, even when those routines are unhealthy. It creates excuses that sound logical and convincing. It says, maybe tomorrow. It whispers, you're not ready. Or it reminds you of every mistake you have ever made while ignoring every lesson you have learned. These thoughts appear so frequently that many people mistake them for reality. But thoughts are not always facts. They are often habits created through repetition. What you repeatedly tell yourself eventually becomes the story you believe about yourself. This is why self-awareness becomes one of the most valuable qualities a woman can develop. Before changing your life, learn to observe your mind. Notice how you speak to yourself during difficult moments. Do you encourage yourself or criticize yourself? Do you focus on possibilities or limitations? Do you assume failure before taking the first step? Every thought plants a seed. Repeated thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs shape decisions. Decisions create habits, and habits eventually determine your future. Transformation does not begin with changing your environment. It begins with changing the conversation happening inside your own mind. Many women spend years trying to control people around them. They hope others will become kinder, more supportive, more understanding, or more appreciative. But no one has complete control over another person's behavior. You cannot force someone to respect you. You cannot make everyone understand your intentions. You cannot prevent every disappointment. Trying to control the outside world creates frustration because it places your happiness in someone else's hands. Real power comes from controlling your response instead of trying to control every situation. This does not mean ignoring emotions or pretending difficulties do not exist. Strength is not emotional numbness. It is emotional mastery. It is the ability to feel sadness without losing hope, to experience fear without becoming paralyzed, and to face uncertainty without abandoning your values. Every emotion carries a message, but not every emotion deserves control over your actions. Smart women acknowledge their feelings while refusing to become prisoners of them. Your attention is one of your greatest sources of power. Wherever your attention goes, your energy follows. If your mind constantly focuses on comparison, you will always feel behind. If it focuses on resentment, peace becomes impossible. If it focuses on fear, opportunities begin to look like threats. But when your attention shifts toward learning, gratitude, discipline, and purpose, your inner world gradually changes. The same life begins to feel different because your perspective has changed. Silence is another powerful teacher. Modern life constantly demands attention. Notifications, opinions, endless conversations, and social media create noise that makes it difficult to hear your own wisdom. Many people become experts at listening to everyone except themselves. A smart woman creates moments of stillness because clarity cannot grow inside a distracted mind. In silence, you begin to recognize which fears are real and which ones have simply been repeated for too long. You discover that many limitations existed only because your mind accepted them without question. Discipline also begins in the mind before it appears in your actions. Every healthy habit starts with a decision that must be repeated, even when motivation disappears. Waiting until you feel inspired often leads to inconsistency. Strong women understand that feelings change from day to day, but commitment remains steady. They do not ask themselves whether they feel like improving. They remind themselves why improvement matters. Every small promise they keep to themselves strengthens their confidence, because self-trust is built through consistent action, not empty intentions. There will always be moments when life becomes unfair. People may underestimate you, misunderstand your choices, or criticize your growth simply because it makes them uncomfortable. If your mind depends on external validation, every negative opinion becomes a heavy burden. But when your identity is rooted in your own values, criticism loses much of its influence. You no longer chase approval because you understand that respect earned through authenticity lasts far longer than praise gained through pretending to be someone you are not. Mastering your mind is not a destination that you reach once and keep forever. It is a daily practice of choosing awareness over impulse, discipline over excuses, wisdom over emotion, and purpose over distraction. Every morning offers another opportunity to decide which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones deserve to be released. The woman who learns to guide her own mind carries a strength that cannot be taken away by failure, rejection, uncertainty, or temporary setbacks, because her greatest source of power has never depended on the world outside her. Protecting your peace is not a sign of weakness. It is one of the clearest signs of emotional intelligence and inner strength. Many people believe that being kind means always saying yes, always being available, and always sacrificing their own needs for the comfort of others. But kindness without boundaries eventually becomes exhaustion. Compassion without wisdom often leads to resentment. A smart woman understands that protecting her peace is not selfish. It is necessary if she wants to live with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Every relationship teaches you something about yourself. Some relationships encourage growth, while others quietly drain your energy. Some conversations leave you feeling inspired, while others leave your mind filled with doubt, frustration, or anxiety. The strongest women learn to recognize this difference. They understand that every person they allow into their life influences their thoughts, emotions, and decisions. That is why they become intentional about who receives their time, attention, and trust. Many people fear setting boundaries because they worry about disappointing others. They want everyone to like them. They avoid uncomfortable conversations. They stay silent even when something feels wrong, because they believe keeping the peace means avoiding conflict. But real peace is not created by pleasing everyone around you. Real peace comes from being honest with yourself. Every time you ignore your own limits to satisfy someone else, you teach your mind that your needs matter less than everyone else's. Over time, this slowly weakens your confidence because you begin living according to other people's expectations instead of your own values. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are guidelines that teach people how to treat you. They communicate what you accept and what you refuse to tolerate. They protect your energy from unnecessary drama, disrespect, manipulation, and constant emotional pressure. Healthy people usually respect clear boundaries because they understand mutual respect. Those who become angry when you establish limits often benefited from your lack of them. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. The word may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you have spent years trying to make everyone happy. You may feel guilty. You may worry that others will misunderstand your intentions. But every meaningful yes requires many thoughtful no's. When you say yes to every request, invitation, responsibility, or expectation, you eventually say no to your own priorities without realizing it. Time is limited. Energy is limited. Attention is limited. Protecting these resources allows you to invest them where they truly matter. A smart woman also understands that not every argument deserves her participation. Some people do not seek understanding. They seek reaction. They want attention, conflict, or control. Responding emotionally to every criticism only gives unnecessary power to opinions that should never have influenced your life. Silence can sometimes demonstrate greater strength than the perfect response. Walking away from unnecessary conflict is not surrender. It is choosing peace over pride. Social media has made comparison and outside opinions more accessible than ever before. Every day, people are exposed to carefully edited versions of other people's lives. Success appears effortless. Happiness looks constant. Beauty seems flawless. Without strong boundaries, it becomes easy to compare your behind-the-scenes struggles with someone else's highlight reel. Smart women recognize this trap. They limit what steals their confidence, instead of allowing endless comparison to shape their self-worth. They remember that peace grows where comparison ends. Boundaries also apply to the conversations you have with yourself. Sometimes the loudest critic is not another person, but your own inner voice. It constantly reminds you of mistakes, failures, and imperfections. Protecting your peace means refusing to entertain thoughts that repeatedly attack your confidence without offering wisdom. Self-reflection helps you grow. Self-condemnation only keeps you trapped. There is a difference between learning from your past and living inside it. Another important boundary involves your emotional responsibility. Caring about people does not mean carrying every burden they refuse to carry themselves. Many women develop the habit of trying to rescue everyone around them. They solve every problem, absorb every emotion, and constantly place themselves last. While generosity is admirable, constantly rescuing others can become unhealthy when it destroys your own well-being. You can support people without becoming responsible for every decision they make. You can love someone deeply while recognizing that their growth remains their own responsibility. Respecting your own boundaries also teaches others to respect them. Confidence grows every time you remain consistent with your values. If you constantly change your standards to avoid upsetting others, people become confused about where your limits actually exist. Consistency creates clarity. People learn that your kindness is genuine, but your principles are not negotiable. This balance earns lasting respect because it shows that your identity cannot be easily influenced by pressure or temporary emotions. Protecting your peace requires courage because not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people become uncomfortable when you stop accepting disrespect. Others may accuse you of changing simply because you no longer tolerate behaviors that once harmed your well-being. Growth often changes relationships. Those who truly value you will adjust with understanding. Those who only valued your availability may resist your boundaries because they preferred the version of you that never protected yourself. Inner peace is built through daily decisions rather than dramatic moments. It grows every time you choose honesty over people-pleasing, self-respect over approval, wisdom over emotional reactions, and purpose over unnecessary distractions. It becomes stronger every time you leave an unhealthy environment, decline a commitment that violates your priorities, or refuse to carry guilt for honoring your own limits. These small choices shape a life where calmness replaces constant stress and confidence replaces fear of rejection. A woman who protects her peace does not become distant or cold. She becomes intentional. She offers kindness without allowing manipulation. She shows compassion without abandoning herself. She gives generously without emptying her own spirit. She understands that the quality of her life depends not only on what she welcomes into it, but also on what she chooses to keep outside its boundaries. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe it comes from praise, success, beauty, talent, or the approval of others. They think confident women are simply born with a special personality that allows them to face every challenge without fear. But lasting confidence is not something you receive from the outside. It is something you build from within through discipline. A smart woman understands that confidence is not created by waiting until she feels ready. It is created by consistently doing what needs to be done, even when motivation disappears. Motivation is powerful, but it is temporary. Some days you wake up inspired, full of energy, and ready to conquer your goals. Other days your mind feels tired, distracted, or uncertain. If your progress depends only on motivation, your results will always rise and fall with your emotions. Discipline is different. Discipline allows you to continue moving even when excitement fades. It teaches you that your future should be guided by commitment rather than by changing feelings. Every promise you make to yourself matters. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you will wake up early, exercise, learn a new skill, finish an important project, or improve your habits, but continue breaking those promises, your mind quietly begins to lose trust in you. This loss of self-trust weakens confidence far more than failure ever could. On the other hand, every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you strengthen your belief that you are dependable. Confidence grows because your actions prove that your words have value. Discipline begins with small choices rather than dramatic transformations. Many people wait for the perfect moment to completely change their lives. They promise themselves that next Monday, next month, or next year, they will become more focused, healthier, wiser, or more successful. But meaningful change rarely happens through one giant decision. It happens through hundreds of small decisions repeated consistently. Choosing to read instead of scrolling endlessly. Choosing to complete today's task instead of postponing it. Choosing to remain calm instead of reacting emotionally. These small victories may seem insignificant, but together they build an identity that becomes difficult to shake. Smart women understand that discipline is a form of self-respect. Every healthy habit communicates an important message to the mind. I value my future enough to act today. Whether it is caring for your physical health, protecting your mental well-being, managing your finances wisely, or developing new skills, discipline demonstrates love for the person you are becoming. It is not punishment, it is preparation. One of the greatest obstacles to discipline is the desire for immediate comfort. The human mind naturally seeks pleasure and avoids discomfort. It prefers entertainment over effort, excuses over responsibility, and familiarity over growth. Yet almost everything valuable in life requires temporary discomfort. Learning new abilities feels awkward before it becomes natural. Building strength requires physical effort. Developing emotional maturity requires facing difficult truths. Financial stability often demands delayed gratification. Healthy relationships require patience, honesty, and consistent care. Discipline teaches you to accept short-term discomfort for long-term freedom. There will always be distractions competing for your attention. Modern life constantly offers easy escapes from responsibility. Endless entertainment, unnecessary arguments, comparison, and digital noise can consume hours without improving your life. A disciplined woman becomes selective about where her attention goes because she understands that attention is one of her most valuable resources. Every hour invested in growth moves her closer to her purpose. Every hour wasted without awareness quietly steals opportunities that will never return. Discipline also shapes emotional strength. It is easy to remain patient when everything goes according to plan. It is easy to stay positive when life feels comfortable. True discipline appears when circumstances become difficult. It is choosing kindness when anger feels easier. It is remaining honest when dishonesty offers temporary advantage. It is continuing your work after disappointment, instead of allowing one setback to destroy your momentum. Emotional discipline prevents temporary feelings from making permanent decisions. Perfection is not the goal. Many people abandon good habits because they make one mistake and believe they have failed completely. A disciplined woman understands that progress is never perfectly straight. Some days will be stronger than others. There will be moments of weakness, distractions, delays, and unexpected challenges. Instead of criticizing herself endlessly, she simply returns to the path. She refuses to let one imperfect day become an excuse for abandoning months of progress. Comparison often destroys discipline because it shifts attention away from personal growth. Looking at someone else's achievements can either inspire you or discourage you, depending on your mindset. Smart women focus less on competing with others and more on becoming slightly better than they were yesterday. They measure success through consistency rather than through comparison. This creates a healthier form of confidence because it is rooted in personal development instead of external recognition. Another important lesson discipline teaches is patience. The most meaningful rewards rarely appear immediately. Strong character is built slowly. Financial success usually develops through years of wise decisions. Healthy relationships require consistent trust. Physical fitness grows through repeated effort. Inner peace develops through countless moments of choosing wisdom over impulse. Impatient people often quit because they cannot see immediate results. Disciplined women continue because they trust the process even before the rewards become visible. Discipline also creates freedom, even though many people believe the opposite. They imagine discipline as restriction, rules, and constant sacrifice. In reality, lack of discipline creates far greater limitations. Poor financial habits create debt. Poor health habits reduce energy. Emotional impulsiveness damages relationships. Constant procrastination creates stress. Discipline removes these burdens by creating stability. It gives you more control over your time, your choices, your emotions, and your future. Every disciplined action strengthens your identity. After enough repetition, healthy choices no longer feel forced because they become part of who you are. You no longer exercise because you are trying to become healthy. You exercise because you see yourself as someone who values health. You no longer protect your peace because someone advised you to do so. You protect it because self-respect has become part of your character. Identity, built through discipline, becomes far stronger than temporary motivation. The strongest confidence does not announce itself loudly. It does not seek constant validation or depend upon applause. It appears quietly in the woman who honors her commitments, remains consistent through challenges, chooses responsibility over excuses, and continues moving forward regardless of temporary emotions. Her confidence cannot easily be shaken because it was never built upon opinions, popularity, or luck. It was built through countless moments when discipline became stronger than comfort, when commitment became greater than fear, and when daily actions proved that she could rely on herself, no matter what circumstances appeared before her. From an early age, many women are taught to seek approval. They learn to avoid disappointing others, to be agreeable, to fit expectations, and to measure their worth by how they are perceived. Over time, this desire for acceptance can become so deeply rooted that many important decisions are no longer guided by personal values, but by the fear of being judged. A smart woman eventually realizes that a life built around approval is a life that never truly belongs to her. The moment she chooses growth over the need for validation, she begins to discover a strength that cannot be controlled by the opinions of others. The need for approval is natural. Every human being wants to feel accepted, respected, and valued. There is nothing wrong with appreciating encouragement or enjoying recognition for your work. The problem begins when approval becomes your source of identity. If your confidence rises with praise and falls with criticism, your emotional stability is no longer in your own hands. It belongs to everyone who has an opinion about your life. This creates a fragile foundation because opinions change constantly. People admire you one day and question you the next. If you chase every opinion, you eventually lose sight of your own direction. Growth often requires making choices that other people do not understand. Sometimes your family may question your dreams. Friends may doubt your decisions. Colleagues may criticize your ambition. Even strangers may offer opinions about how you should live, dress, speak, or think. If your greatest goal is to avoid criticism, you will avoid growth, because meaningful progress almost always attracts resistance. Every person who chooses a different path eventually faces misunderstanding from those who are comfortable remaining where they are. A smart woman understands that not everyone is qualified to evaluate her journey. People judge based on their own experiences, fears, beliefs, and limitations. Someone who has never pursued a difficult goal may discourage you from chasing yours. Someone who fears change may criticize your courage. Someone who is insecure may feel threatened by your confidence. Their opinions often reveal more about their own mindset than about your potential. Learning this lesson protects you from allowing unnecessary criticism to shape your future. One of the greatest signs of maturity is becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. You do not need to explain every decision to every person. Not everyone will agree with your priorities, and that is perfectly acceptable. Your responsibility is not to convince the world that your choices are correct. Your responsibility is to live according to your values with honesty and integrity. When your decisions are guided by wisdom rather than by applause, you experience a deeper sense of peace because your direction no longer changes with every outside opinion. Comparison is another powerful form of seeking approval. Modern society constantly encourages people to compare their appearance, achievements, relationships, careers, and lifestyles with others. Social media magnifies this habit by displaying carefully selected moments that rarely represent real life. It becomes easy to believe that everyone else is happier, more successful, more attractive, or more accomplished. A smart woman reminds herself that comparison steals joy because it shifts attention away from personal growth and towards someone else's journey. The only meaningful comparison is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. Growth demands courage because it often requires leaving familiar environments behind. Sometimes you outgrow friendships that once felt comfortable. Sometimes your goals change, your priorities evolve, your habits improve, your conversations become more meaningful. As you grow, not everyone will grow with you. This can feel lonely, but loneliness during growth is often temporary. Remaining in environments that no longer support your values simply to avoid feeling alone creates a much deeper loneliness that lasts far longer. Many people avoid pursuing their dreams because they fear making mistakes publicly. They worry about looking inexperienced, failing in front of others, or being criticized for trying something new. But every expert was once a beginner. Every successful person has experienced failure, uncertainty, and rejection. Growth requires humility because it asks you to become comfortable with learning. A smart woman understands that temporary embarrassment is a small price to pay for lifelong wisdom. She chooses progress over perfection because she knows that waiting until she feels completely prepared often means waiting forever. Choosing growth also means becoming honest with yourself. It is easy to blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck for every difficulty. Self-improvement requires the courage to examine your own habits, attitudes, and decisions. This kind of reflection is uncomfortable because it forces you to face weaknesses instead of hiding from them. Yet this discomfort becomes the doorway to transformation. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. Every moment of honest self-reflection creates an opportunity to become wiser than you were before. Approval often encourages people to wear masks. They present different versions of themselves depending on who they are with. They hide their true opinions to avoid disagreement. They suppress their dreams to fit expectations. They pretend to enjoy things that do not bring them happiness. Maintaining these masks becomes exhausting because living authentically requires far less energy than constantly performing for acceptance. A smart woman gradually removes these masks. She becomes comfortable expressing kindness without pretending to be someone she is not. Authenticity attracts genuine relationships because people connect with honesty rather than performance. Growth also teaches patience. Personal development rarely happens overnight. There will be seasons when your efforts seem invisible. You may work hard without immediate recognition. You may improve quietly while others receive attention. During these moments, approval becomes especially tempting because external praise feels like proof that your efforts matter. But true growth continues even when no one notices. The strongest character is developed in private moments when no applause exists, no audience is watching, and no reward is guaranteed. Another important lesson is understanding that criticism and feedback are not the same. Wise women remain open to constructive advice because growth requires learning. They listen carefully, reflect honestly, and accept correction when it helps them improve. At the same time, they refuse to absorb every negative opinion as truth. They evaluate advice based on its wisdom rather than on its popularity. This balance allows continuous learning without sacrificing self-respect. Purpose becomes much clearer when approval no longer controls your decisions. Instead of asking, "What will people think?" you begin asking, "Is this aligned with my values?" Instead of wondering whether everyone will approve, you focus on whether your actions reflect integrity, discipline, compassion, and courage. These questions create a stronger foundation because values remain steady even when opinions change. The woman who chooses growth over approval develops a quiet confidence that cannot be purchased or borrowed. She no longer measures her worth by applause, compliments, her public recognition. She understands that respect earned through authenticity lasts longer than popularity gained through pretending. She walks her own path with humility, continues learning even after success, accepts criticism without losing herself, embraces change without abandoning her principles, and allows every challenge to shape her character rather than her fear of what others might say. Pain is one of the few experiences that every human being shares, yet no two people respond to it in exactly the same